Well, hello. Hopefully this mic still works. For our next session, we're going to talk about some work that we're doing actually here on campus. So a little bit about us. I'm Sara Holzknecht. I'm Director of the Sustainability Office here at Bellevue College. Came to the college after working in environmental spaces, climate policy, and advocacy. And prior to that, I actually ran a small winery for about a decade, but I became increasingly concerned about what I was seeing in the climate and environment. So I switched gears, and here I am. And I'll pass it off to Elissa to introduce yourself as well.
Hi, everyone. There we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Elissa Gordon. I'm the Associate Director for the Sustainability Office here at Bellevue College. I've been with the college for about 7 years now, and prior to that, I was working in wildlife research for the National Park Service, so at Olympic, Rainier, North Cascades. And I'll pass it to Branden next.
Hello. Cool. There we go. Maybe. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm Branden Ellsworth. I'm the grounds manager here. I started out on the grounds crew itself, doing the actual landscaping. I've been here for about a decade, and before that, I got my degree in aquatic and fishery sciences from UW, and then spent a couple years in the conservation corps, and then worked my way up through that.
Great. So a little bit of a background of sustainability here at the college, going all the way back 25 years ago to our first Earth Week. And I won't go through all of these, but you can see things have grown a lot here in terms of what we're doing. We have a big focus on making sure that our buildings are sustainable, that they're LEED certified. Our office was created in 2012, and we support sustainability all throughout campus. The most recent year that you'll see on here in 2024, we released our new climate action plan, and we have copies up there if you're interested. It's also available online, but this kind of goes over a lot of the work that we do, and this project is highlighted in there. So today we are going to talk about compost BURitos, and whenever we say that, we have people kind of look at us and say, what is that? So it's a bioretention urban retrofit, and you can see the picture on the right there. Those are the compost BURitos, and you'll see, this is not on our campus, you'll see pictures and some video of the ones that we've installed on our campus, but they're a way of filtering out stormwater toxins that are coming off of our roads and impacting our salmon. As many of you are probably already aware, if not all of you, our salmon are in crisis. Salmon numbers have been dwindling throughout the Pacific Northwest. There's a lot of factors that are related to that, whether it's increased temperatures or some of the contaminants that are coming from roadways. But there are a lot of different ways that we need to address this problem to have our healthy salmon populations back.
All right, so Bellevue College is in the Greater Lake Washington watershed, so all of our runoff on campus directly impacts salmon. So one action that we took is to receive Salmon Safe certification. We officially received it back in February of this year. And this is an organization that provides independent verification of water mitigation and water quality improvements. And so this is just one step in the right direction for Bellevue College to support salmon. And so a team of scientists came out and gave us conditions that we have to hit in order to support salmon on our campus. And so our office and the grounds department is actively working on hitting all those markers. And so, with salmon declining, it's really important that we do support this effort. So this is a map showing stormwater pollution in the Puget Sound region. All that yellow and orange is areas with the most pollutants in the water. So you can see it's, directly flowing into the Puget Sound. And so this picture here on the right is showing something called 6-ppd quinone or 6-ppd-Q. As water, as it rains, water hits, cars, other structures, hits non-porous pavement and rushes into our streams, rivers, and waterways. And so there's a toxin that is added to tires so they don't break down as quickly called 6-ppd. And when it mixes with ozone, it creates 6-ppd quinone. And as tires wear down on roadways, it gets washed away into our waterways. And so in 2020, 6-ppd quinone was discovered and identified as a cause to salmon mortality in Washington. And so it's a really big factor in saving our salmon, and it ends up there. And so, yeah, that's just a picture of how tiny the particles are. So it just shows how easily they can get into waterways, and they're just all over our roads in Washington. And so bringing us to this project that we're going to be focusing on in today's talk, we received a grant from the National Wildlife Federation and the Mutual of Omaha to support and restore salmon habitat on campus. We focused on this swale and detention pond on our campus as all that water goes from 148th Street and some of our parking lots into the detention pond, and then ultimately nearby rivers in the Puget Sound. And so we decided to focus on that area for our project. This is just a timeline of our grant. It's still ongoing today, and there's a lot of different steps involved. But this just gives a clear outline, and we're going to be talking about all these pieces in the rest of the talk as well. All right, hand it over to Branden now.
Cool. So one of the issues that we kind of that arose from COVID time was that our crew dwindled down to only 2 people. So 2 people to manage the whole campus. The exterior kind of made it really difficult. Surprise, some things got left behind, such as the swale and the pond. Bellevue College was no longer in compliance, and as a result, we found this great opportunity that Sara and the sustainability team came to us with to partner and do some much needed maintenance, and then also something better than just maintenance. You can see what it looked like beforehand, and it was just about 6 to 8 feet tall of blackberry and other noxious weeds. That is, the weeds that were there are Class C noxious weed we aren't required to control, but in best practice, we ought to. So one of the other things that we kind of did, the crew basically spent about 2 to 3 weeks just taking mowers to the whole area. This was the after of just taking all the blackberry down. You could actually see it. And that was basically why we were out of compliance, because the Department of Ecology couldn't actually check and monitor what was going on in the pond. So at this point, we are in compliance.
So collaboration was a really important part of this project. Partnering with faculty really got students involved in this and gave students a lot of hands-on experience, and going back to the other talks, got students thinking about future careers possibly in this field. We had 7 different classes participate so far in this project, coming out to the site and pulling invasive species, caging plants, mulching. So it's been a really collaborative project with a lot of different students and classes involved so far. So this is at one of the work parties that we've had. You can see students really getting into it. They're digging out the trench for the main compost BURito at the site. And then here's some more pictures of one of our larger events. You can see students planting some of the new native trees at the site, just showing how many students were involved in the restoration. Okay, so now we have a video of one of our compost BURitos getting installed. Cedar Grove was another partner in this project. They're the compost hauler for campus, and they actually manufacture these compost BURitos that Sara was mentioning earlier. So it's a mix of compost and sand, and studies have shown that it works to filter out heavy metals, 6 ppdq, and other pollutants. And so we installed a set of 3 in the bioswale on our campus to filter out any of that stormwater that's going into our detention pond through this filtration device. Great, and I think, yep, we have another video. This is just a smaller compost BURito. So it's pretty cool. Cedar Grove came with a big truck that had a conveyor belt with compost inside and a fan, and they just blew this compost BURito in pretty quickly and efficiently. So it's a synthetic sock with that mixture of compost and sand inside. And here are just some pictures of the process that you can see. So this one's in the bioswale, and that pipe is leading into the detention pond. And this one is just an area that we get water flow coming off the parking lots into the pond. So we put one compost BURito there to kind of help filter out that extra stormwater. And this is just another photo of one of the events. You can see Sara and Branden caging one of the native trees going in, and students are mulching the site at this event.
Yeah, so one of the other things that the grounds crew always tries to do is when we do projects like this, we try to plant back things that are native and or are going to be climate adaptive. So we use a lot of Southern Oregon, Northern California species in addition to things that we are actively growing in here. So that's just a whole host of things, salal, bog myrtles, shore pines, some redwoods, sequoias, things like that. As Elissa and Sara mentioned, we are also continuing this project. It's not ended yet, and I don't think it will for a while. It is upon us as environmental stewardship, we have to make sure that we know what we're actually talking about. So we're continuing doing stormwater samples. I have my crew out there probably about once a month when it's raining, taking samples, and we're having community partners test them and give us results so we can actually prove that this is working in a low cost, effective manner. Just more sampling.
Today it's quite a heavy rain.
I don't know if you want me to.
Sure. So I got really excited actually seeing them in action. So I'm here early in the morning, and this is not too far after that. So it's actually kind of cool to see it in progress. Some of the lessons, or one of the things that we have noticed out over time is that it may be beneficial to add more of these to actually slow the water down fast, slow it down in steps as opposed to in one big dam effect.
Yeah, you've seen, I think, water overtopping what we have installed on multiple occasions when we have these big storms where we get a lot of rain in a short time period. So taking those learnings and hopefully applying them to future installations like this throughout campus, but it is really cool to see the project kind of working in process. And so yeah, there is that. And then you can see as this video goes over to the second BURito that comes off, there's that parking lot cut there. And so that water is being caught by that BURito and then the pond just behind. And none of that was visible before the grounds team removed the invasives. I mean, when we first started talking about what should we apply for this grant, because it was aimed at endangered species, I think Branden mentioned the pond, and I didn't know there was a pond on campus because it was so hidden by the blackberry vines. So, so yeah, this is still a work in progress. We're still doing testing of the 6PPDQ funded by our Student Environmental Sustainability Fund. We're still doing projects out there. The blackberries are still coming up. We are still pulling them. So if you want to get involved in that, let us know. We are doing ongoing volunteer events with classes. But we've learned a lot from this. And so this is kind of, you know, some of our lessons. And I think these could apply to a lot of different projects in the environmental field and elsewhere. Starting early, you saw that timeline. So this goes back to, I think 2023 was when we first were like learning about this grant and applying for it. And then there was all the planning and bringing in others to work on it. So the outreach that we've done, whether it was to other folks within the college or outside the college, has really helped kind of build the success of the project. And that also has included faculty and students, which really made all of those pictures of the big volunteer groups. That really made the planting days and then subsequently the invasives removal days successful. We've had a standing meeting that, you know, we didn't let get obscured for the most part by other things that would come up. And that kept us, you know, getting movement forward on this project. As we mentioned at the beginning, we all have very different backgrounds. And so I think we brought a lot of different skill sets to this, and that was certainly helpful. And then it helped us to be flexible. Something would come up, we'd say, do we need to shift a little bit? Do we need to consider different plants? Where are we going to put the BURitos? And we've learned a lot about the stormwater and the way that the stormwater management on that part of campus as part of this project, so we've had to really respond to that. And then the last one, we didn't want to say many birds with one stone since we are the sustainability office, but so we said feed many birds with one scone. Also don't feed birds scones. We're just trying to come up with something a little more bird friendly. But, you know, this project, I think, is a great example of a way that our offices have been able to work with other departments on campus, bring things into the curriculum, and then go outside the college and building these partnerships. And so it's really served many different purposes, as well as helping us learn more about our stormwater on campus. So, and I'm sure we'll continue learning lessons as time goes on, because the work isn't finished yet. So, thank you all, and we're happy to take any questions you might have.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I do teach about tire and road wear particles in most of my classes. And so I'm kind of curious if you've been able to see, track so far a pattern of lessening 6-PPD in the samples over time. Are you seeing a result like that?
We have gotten some data back yet. We have gotten some data back, but it's a little too early to tell if we're seeing patterns. We only have a few months of data, so it's a little too early to tell. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Hello, so I'm wondering, since I'm doing a final on like pollution and mostly on like heavy metals like mercury going into the ocean, do the compost BURitos also filter like mercury and stuff out of the water, or no?
So as Elissa mentioned, the science behind this is fairly new, but I believe that they do filter some heavy metals out. We can talk more if you'd like. I'm happy to share. There's a report from a few years back on this that might be helpful to you. But yeah, there is some additional filtration beyond 6-PPDQ from stormwater.
So the composite BURitos are basically a filter, but all filters at some point they get contaminated and have to be replaced. So how long can those BURitos last, and what's going to happen to them when they are going to get
Yes, this is such a good question, and we have this question ourselves because this removal of contaminants via compost has only been discovered in the past 5 or so years. It's unclear. We don't know, and that's part of why we're doing this testing on both sides of the BURito to see what the efficacy is. And we're not the only ones that are doing this, by the way. There are other, I don't recall if it's the county or WashDOT, but there's other testing underway that's looking at are there better filtration materials and how long do they last? Because you're right, those filtration materials do need to get swapped out, and when they do have a lot of toxics in them. And so those are all questions that are still kind of being mulled over. So more to come, but that's what we're hoping to kind of report on with this testing eventually.
And it's WashDOT, it's Department of Ecology, and City of Bellevue all have projects across the area.
Thank you.
Yeah. Snoqualmie Tribe, I know, they've got a project working with Department of Ecology too. So, any other questions?
Well, the wild forests, they often look very overgrown, and well, it seems to be a natural state of things. And you removed a lot of invasive species, it makes sense. But you added some other species, but now it looks like cut clean. Are you planning to add more species, or well, just any plants there, or are you planning to leave it like that?
Time. Just going to take time. So everything that we put in there to keep costs low is probably 2 to 3 year growth. We won't really start to see it look full or filled in till year 7 to 10. So whenever you're doing restoration work, you got to give timelines, longer than you'd think, especially because there's no supplemental water. One of my big things is actually for Salmon Safe is water conservation. So we try and minimize excess watering. So that's why we're choosing the Northern California, Southern Oregon plains.
So I was wondering, I took very brief notes. So I was generally wondering about their cost, and learning that they're new changes the question a little bit. But this summer I learned a little bit about beaver dam analogs, which are a similar idea, but take a long time of construction, because it's logs and a bunch of sticks, and it's basically a pseudo beaver dam. And those also don't last very long because a lot of rain will eventually destroy them. But I don't know. So we asked about the timeline. I was just wondering, do you think this is something that's affordable enough that it can be put along mountain highways near rivers and cities in Seattle by the lake, or where stormwater filtration and drainage fails currently or somewhat fails? Because even if we have a decent filtration system, obviously we have a lot of toxins in the Puget Sound coming from stormwater runoff. So yeah, I was wondering, I don't know, about accessibility to them, and I don't know what it looks like to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the cost is relatively low, maybe a couple $1,000s to put in one of these BURitos. And WashDOT is piloting some projects along major thoroughfares at areas that they've identified that are back to that heat map that Elissa showed. The areas where it was we're seeing the worst pollution, are there places where we can kind of strategically install some of these? And I think the problem that we're going to see is like you saw in the video, if you get a really big storm event, is it just going to overtop the compost BURito? But yeah, WashDOT is exploring it. I think the most recent estimate is there's about 100,000, the equivalent of 100,000 tires left on our roadways in the state each year. And so it's a huge problem, and they are trying to figure out, are there specific locations where we can add these in to help support the filtration that's already there?
Even if it's going over a little bit, it's still doing something.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the other bits that I'd kind of like to mention to this is that this is generation 1, right? So if we can prove that this is effective, right, the next generation of what these kind of filtration methods look like will be different and they will be better. So it's just growing upon the science and the ideas of it.
Do you know of any other community colleges that are participating in this kind of work?
Not that we're aware of. We are part of like a sustainability cohort statewide for higher ed, and we also presented at the Washington, Oregon Higher Education Sustainability Conference this spring on this, and we're not aware of anybody else doing this, but I hope that many others follow suit, because I think it's just a great project and great way to bring into the curriculum as well.
Okay. I just really want to say thank you to everyone. This process was 1.5 years in the making just to have this meeting. And Ron, thank you very much for standing by me all that time. We will be ending now. There's some XR, VR videos over in the next room if you want to see that or experience that. It won't take you very long. And thank you, Digital Media Services, right? And Bill Grassi and the foundation, thank you. And Sustainability Office.